Welcome back. Today I'm going to be reading Exodus chapter 21 and 22. Let me just take a look and see what we're looking like here. Kind of long. Nothing crazier than I've read before. I'm going to hop right into this. I'm not even going to waste any time. So starting with chapter 21, it's called the Hebrew Servants, or just Hebrew Servants, no the. And it says, "These are the laws you are to set before them. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve you for 6 years. But in the seventh year, he shall go free without paying anything. If he comes alone, he is to go free alone. But if he has a wife when he comes, she is to go with him. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons and daughters, the woman and her children shall be no longer. Hold on, let me reread that again. The woman and her children shall belong to her master, and only the man shall go free. But if the servant declares, I love my master and my wife and my children and do not want to go free, then his master must take him before the judges. He shall take him to the door or the door post and pierce his ear with an awl. AWA. I've never heard AWL. I've never heard of that. Owl? Then he will be his servant for life. If a man sells his daughter as a servant, she is not to go free as male servants do. If she does not please the master who has selected her for himself, he must let her be redeemed. He has no right to sell her to foreigners because he has broken faith with her. If he selects her for his son, he must grant her the rights of a daughter. If he marries another woman, he must not deprive the first one of her food, clothing, and marital rights. If he does not provide her with these three things, she is to go free without any payment of money." So this is God endorsing slavery. God's like, yeah, you can have a slave. And if that slave, that male slave has, as it says here, has a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the woman and the children shall belong to her master, and only the man should go free. So God's saying, yeah, if they have a family, you can keep the family, send them out of there. This is your God. My God. My God. Not your God, my God. Saying that slavery is okay. That's what it says. It's in here. Slavery is okay. These are the commands. It says, these are the laws you are to set before them. Slavery is okay. Now, personal energies, energies, injuries. That's what this next section is called. So I'm in Genesis 21:12. Anyone who strikes a person with a fatal blow is to be put to death. However, if it's not done intentionally, but God lets it happen, they are to flee to the place I will designate. But if anyone schemes and kills anyone deliberately, that person is to be taken from my altar and put to death. Now that I agree with. I think that if you take a life, done. If you do it accidentally, like I'm driving down the road and John, who wants to commit suicide, runs out in front of my vehicle, well, I didn't do that intentionally. You were crazy. Or I'm just fending you off, right? You're attacking me and I'm fending you off and you fall and like break your neck or something like that. I didn't mean to do that. So, anyone who attacks their father or mother is to be put to death. Anyone who kidnaps someone is to be put to death, whether the victim has been sold or still in the kidnapper's possession. 100% agree. 100% agree. We have too much sex trafficking going on in this country, and no one being tried for it, apparently. Nobody. But I absolutely agree. Anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. That's crazy. If people quarrel and one person hits another with a stone or with their fist. Sorry, these dogs are going crazy. Let me do that again. If people quarrel and one person hits another with a stone or with their fist, and the victim does not die but is confined to bed, The one who struck the blow, will not be held liable if the other can get up and walk around outside with the staff. However, the guilty party must pay the injured person for any loss of time and see that the victim is completely healed. That's reasonable. You get in a quarrel with somebody and it results in them being bedridden, you should adhere to them, right? Unless they started it. You come at me, you start hitting me, and I have to defend myself. I don't owe you anything after that. Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result. But they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. So there it is. God right there is saying, yes, human beings can be property of another, and it's okay if you beat them. So there it is. There's our God saying, it's okay if you beat them, just don't kill them. If people are fighting and hit a pregnant woman and she gives birth prematurely, but there's no serious injury, the offender must be fined whatever the woman's husband demands and the court allows. If there is a serious injury, you are to take life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. I'm with it. An owner who hits a male or female slave in the eye and destroys it must let the slave go free to compensate for the eye. And the owner who knocks out the tooth of a male or female slave must let the slave go free to compensate for the tooth. If a bull gores a man or a woman to death, the bull is to be stoned to death, and its meat must not be eaten. If the owner of the bull will not be held responsible, but the owner of the bull will not be held responsible. If, however, the bull has had the habit of goring and the owner has been warned but has not kept it pinned up, and it kills a man or woman, the bull is to be stoned, and its owner is also to be put to death. Yes, you people out there with pit bulls and Rottweilers that maul children and people to death, you should be killed too. Not just the dog, you. You knew getting that kind of dog is going to has the potential to result in something like this. Pit bulls were literally bred to kill. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but I have personally owned pit bulls a large chunk of my life, and I've seen them do crazy things. Crazy things. Rip another dog's throat out, latch onto somebody, and you can't get them off. I've seen it. So, with that being said, if you're out there and you own one of these kinds of animals and you're being told over and over again, hey, that dog is a problem for our community and that dog hurts somebody, you should also be penalized. I personally think so. If a bull, it says, however, if payment is demanded, the owner may redeem himself by the payment of whatever is demanded. I'm okay with that. Pay him out. This law is also applied if the bull gores a son or daughter. If the bull gores a male or female slave, the owner must pay 30 shekels of silver to the master of the slave, and the bull must be stoned to death. If anyone uncovers a pit or digs one and fails to cover it, and an ox or donkey falls into it, the one who opened the pit must pay the owner for the loss and take the dead animal in exchange. If anyone's bull injures someone else's bull and it dies, the two parties are to sell the live one and divide both the money and the dead animal equally. However, if it's known that the bull had a habit of goring, yet the owner did not keep it pinned up, the owner must pay animal for animal and take the dead animal in exchange. So this is more Jewish law or Israelite law. This has really nothing to do with most of us today because most of us don't really have bulls. But there are a few things in there. Most of us aren't, procuring slaves. That's not really what we do today. Unless you're over in China or parts of Africa or you're a sex slaver. Then that's something you do. But I doubt you're following these laws because you're not following the laws of your land. So, except for in China, that's okay. Protection of property. Whoever steals an ox or a sheep and slaughters it or sells it must pay back 5 head of cattle for the ox and the 4 sheep for the property. Oh, yeah, this is chapter 22, by the way. I meant to say that. Protection of property, chapter 22. Protection of property. If a thief is caught breaking in at night and struck a fatal blow, the defender is not guilty of bloodshed. But if it happens after sunrise, the defender is guilty of bloodshed. No, homie. You come into my house, I don't care what time of day it is. You come into my house and I kill you, that's your problem. You came into my house with the knowledge that you could be hurt. So, anyone who steals must certainly make restitution, but if they have nothing, they must be sold to pay for their theft. If the stolen animal is found alive in their possession, whether ox or donkey or sheep, they must pay back double. If anyone grazes their livestock in a field or vineyard and lets them stray, and they graze in someone else's field, they must offer to make restitution from the best of their own field or vineyard. If a fire breaks out and spreads into thorn bushes, so that it burns shocks of grain or standing grain or the whole field, the one who started the fire must make restitution. If anyone gives a neighbor silver or gold for safekeeping and they are stolen from the neighbor's house, the thief, if caught, must pay back double. But if the thief is not found, the owner of the house must appear before the judges, and they must determine whether the owner of the house has laid hand on the other person's property. In all cases of illegal possession of an ox, a donkey, a sheep, a garment, or any other property about which somebody says, "This is mine," both parties are to bring their cases before the judges. The one whom the judges declare guilty must pay back double to the other. If anyone gives a donkey, an ox, a sheep, or any other animal to their neighbor for safekeeping, and it dies or is injured, or it is taken away while no one is looking, the issue between them will be settled by the taking of an oath before the Lord that the neighbor did not lay hands on the other person's property. The owner is to accept this, and no restitution is required, but if the animal was stolen from the neighbor, restitution must be made to the owner. If it was torn to pieces by a wild animal, the neighbor shall bring the remains as evidence and shall not be required to pay for the torn animal. If anyone borrows an animal from their neighbor and it is injured or dies while the owner is not present, they must make restitution. But if the owner is with the animal, the borrower will not have to pay. If the animal was not hired, the money paid for the hired covers the loss. All right, so same chapters, different section. Social responsibilities. Let's see. If a man seduces a virgin who is not pledged to be married and sleeps with her, he must pay the bride price, and she shall be his wife. If her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he must still pay the bride price for virgins. I'm okay with that, I guess. Do not allow a sorceress to live. I'm okay with that. Anyone who has sexual relationships with an animal is to be put to death. I'm okay with that. That's crazy. Why would you do that? That's freaking weird. Whoever sacrifices any god to any god other than the Lord must be destroyed. I'm okay with that. Do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner, for you were foreigners in Egypt. I don't think that you should mistreat or oppress anyone. But if you're a foreigner in my land and we're telling you, okay, it's time for you to leave, it's time for you to leave. Right? You're a foreigner. You don't live here. Do not take advantage of the widow or the fatherless. If you do, and they cry out to me, I will certainly hear their cry. My anger will be aroused, and I will kill you with the sword. Your wives will become widows, and your children fatherless. I kind of doubt this threat was followed through because this happens literally every day. So, if you lend money to one of my people among you who is needy, do not treat it like a business deal. Charge no interest. If you take your neighbor's cloak as a pledge, return it by sunset, because that cloak is the only thing covering your neighbor. Because that cloak is the only covering your neighbor has. What else can they sleep in? When they cry out to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. Do not blaspheme God or curse the ruler of your people. Do not hold back offerings from your granaries or your vats. I'll have to look that one up. It's GRANARIES. I don't know that one. I'll have to look it up. You must give me the firstborn of your sons. Do the same with your cattle and your sheep. Let them stay with their mothers for 7 days, but give them to me on the eighth. You are to be my holy people. Do not eat the meat of any animal torn by wild beasts. Throw it to the dogs. Where am I at? Actually, that's it. That's it. Let me go ahead and read chapter 23 since I'm already here. Let's do this. Laws of justice and mercy. Do not spread false reports. Do not help a guilty person by being a malicious witness. Agreed. And we have too many of that today. I literally read a statistic. I don't want to get into it, but we are not doing jury trials the way they were intended to be done. Let's just say that. They're not being held appropriately. Do not follow the crowd in doing wrong. When you give testimony in a lawsuit, do not pervert justice by siding with the crowd, and do not show favoritism to a poor person in a lawsuit. Yes! Yes! Do not show favoritism towards a poor person. Yes, my fellow African Americans, quote unquote, we're just Americans. I'm not African. I have nothing to do with that terrible, terrible place. But it is a known thing when an African American, quote unquote, is on trial and the jury consists of other African Americans, they do favor them. Even when the crime they committed is horrendous. It's a very known thing. It's very common. And I'm sure it happens amongst other people groups, but this is my people group, so I'm allowed to criticize them. So I'm allowed to criticize anyone. I hate that mindset. You're allowed to criticize anyone you want. It's a free country. But anywho, let's move on. If you come across your enemy's ox or donkey wandering off, be sure to return it. If you see the donkey of someone who hates you fallen down under its load, do not leave it there. Be sure to help them with it. There you go. Because we shouldn't be hating anyone anyway. Do not deny justice to your poor people in their lawsuits. Have nothing to do with a false charge, and do not put an innocent or honest person to death, for I will not acquit the guilty. Do not accept a bribe, for a bribe blinds those who see and twist the words of the innocent. A bribe. I said bride. So let me read that again. Do not accept a bribe, for a bribe blinds those who see and twist the words of the innocent. Do not oppress a foreigner. You yourselves know how it feels to be foreigners because you were foreigners of Egypt. Sabbath laws. For 6 years you are to sow your fields and harvest the crops. But during the 7th year, let the land lie unplowed and unused. Then the poor among your people may get food from it, and the wild animals may eat what's left. Do the same with your vineyard and your olive grove. 6 days do your work, and on the 7th day do not work, so that your ox and your donkeys may rest, and so that the slave born in your household and the foreigner living among you may be refreshed. Be careful to do everything I have said to you. Do not invoke the names of other gods. Do not let them be heard on your lips. All right, next one, 3 annual festivals. 3 times a year you are to celebrate a festival to me. Celebrate the festival of unleavened bread for 7 days. Eat bread made without yeast, as I have commanded you. Do this at the appointed time in the month of Aviv. For in that month you came out of Egypt. No one is to appear before me empty-handed. Celebrate the festival of harvest with the first fruits of the crops you sow in the field. Celebrate the festival of ingathering at the end of the year, when you gather in your crops from the field. 3 times a year, all the men are to appear before the sovereign Lord. Do not offer blood of a sacrifice to me, along with anything containing yeast. The fat of my festival offerings must not be kept until morning. Bring the best of the first fruits from your spoil to the house of the Lord God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. A little bit more down here. God's angel to prepare the way. So this is another section, same chapter. See, I am sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion since my name is in him. Now, name here is capitalized. But there's other parts when God refers to himself and he says he, it's not capitalized. Very curious. If you listen carefully to what he says and do all that I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies, and I will oppose those who oppose you. My angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorite, Hittites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hivites, and Jebusites, and I will wipe them out. Okay, God's going to commit genocide for his people. Great stuff. Do not bow down before their gods or worship them or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones to pieces. Worship the Lord your God, and his blessings will be on your food and water. I will take away sickness among you, and none of you will miscarry or be barren in your land. I will give you a full lifespan. I will send my terror ahead of you and throw into confusion every nation you encounter. I will make all your enemies turn their backs and run. I will send the hornet ahead of you and drive the Hivites, Canaanites, and Hittites out of your way. But I will not drive them out in a single year because the land will become desolate and the wild animals too numerous for you. Little by little I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, and from the desert to the Euphrates rivers. I will give into your hand. I'll give into your hands the people who live in the land, and you will drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them or with their gods. Do not let them live in your land, or they will cause you to sin against me, because the worship of their gods will certainly be a snare to you. So that is that. So chapters 21, 22, and 23, these are more laws, more orders that God passes on. I would say these mostly pertain to the Jews. I would not say they pertain to everybody. However, I think that a number of them, everybody would do well to follow. So I'm going to go ahead and end it today right here. I hope you have a blessed day. God bless.